Chapter 12. The Temperament of Genius. I could probably have hit 400 any season I wanted, but what would it be like if I didn't hit those long ones? It would be just like playing golf. Johnny Mize. Butch Yatkiman had seen plenty since becoming a bat boy for the Cardinals as a green 16-year-old in 1924. Now he was the team's longtime equipment manager, making sure that cleats, gloves, bats, and protective cups were in the players' lockers before each game. He'd hung uniforms for everyone from Rogers Hornsby and Grover Cleveland Alexander to Bud Teachout and Flint Rem. He'd been with the team through 5 pennants and World Series. By the time spring training was taking shape in St. Petersburg, Florida in 1940, Butch had been around long enough to have seen or dealt with most of the habits, superstitions, demands, compulsions, phobias, and other peculiarities that take place within the walls of a baseball clubhouse. To say that he knew all the Cardinals' dirty laundry would be more than just a literal truth, but Butch had never seen anything like this before. Who needed all these bats? Johnny Mize had ordered 30 brand-new Hickory Rogers Hornsby models, fresh from the factory in Kentucky, and he already had 13 nearly new bats from the year before. 43 bats for one guy? At barely 5 feet tall, Yatkiman was not the stoutest of pack mules, and someone was going to have to move these things. This time, instead of keeping his mouth shut like he usually did, that was his cardinal rule, Butch decided to say something. When Johnny got there, the first thing the big man noticed was the harried look on Yatkiman's face. Butch glared at him and said, "Come here." Johnny followed him into the equipment room, where Butch pointed at the bats and began, in Mize's words, complaining vigorously. His bats would take up an entire moving trunk by themselves, Butch bitched. I asked him how he expected me to work without my tools, for which he had no answer, Mize remembered. Given his already foul mood at the time, Butch would have been well within his rights had he sarcastically replied, "Hornsby didn't need a trunk full of bats to hit 403 times." It wouldn't have mattered if Butch had said that or started belting out the national anthem in Pig Latin at the top of his lungs, because Mize wasn't listening anyway. Still clad in his Florida toggery, his wide red face lit with Christmas-like wonder at the sight of the bats, Johnny approached his precious tools. He had to inspect the new arrivals. They were carefully wrapped in 2 containers, wrote Star-Times sports editor and columnist Sid Keener, who was there to witness the scene. He had ordered 30 models divided into 2 weights, 15 at 36 ounces and 15 at 40 ounces. But they were wrapped haphazardly, neither size packed exclusively together, the 36-ouncers intermingling with the 40-ouncers. So Johnny got to work separating the lighter bats from the heavier bats. Butch offered to help weigh them. It was part of his job, after all. But Mize insisted on doing it himself, which probably didn't please the equipment manager, who was still going to have to pack all these war clubs eventually. For Mize, this was all very natural, this fastidious weighing of bats. He took his job seriously. Keener called it the temperament, or idiosyncrasy, of a genius.